All right. So we talked about, I hear what you're saying, how, these people that stormed the Capitol, they feel like they had actually the privilege of being able to do that. Nothing was going to happen to them. They own this country, right? But really what I want to talk about right now, too, I want to touch on the opposite of that, right? We all talked about, we have a couple of podcasts about all the stuff that happened, with Black Lives Matter and all the stuff that went on this summer. Right. From George Floyd in March all the way down, all of 2020. I said if I can put something on 2020 and give it like a topic, it was the coronavirus and Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
That protest, George Floyd, right?
Yeah. Yes,
so
absolutely.
Now we're in the top of 2021, and we have just on this past Wednesday, witnessed all this, the riot, insurrection, coup, mini coup, right, light coup, whatever you want to call it, that happened on Capitol Hill, right? So comparing that to the stuff that went on with Black Lives Matter, right? Mm-hmm. And we just got finished talking about the privilege, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so now I want to ask you guys about I guess I could say the lack of privilege, right?
Yeah.
That
good point.
Black Lives Matter get. And before you say that, first of all, these people that was rioting at this whole insurrection, all the violence, all of this, all the people that died, all of this that was brought on, what was it for? Right? What was their reason? So this guy can continue to be president? Okay?
I don't know.
Right. And so Black Lives Matter was actually protesting something.
That's a real societal issue.
Right?
Societal issue.
Right. We're trying to make society better. And the stuff that happened with that. So I just want to say, what would you guys think about? Okay, so what we just talked about, and what Black Lives Matter experienced, and the contrast of all of that going on. What do you guys think about that?
I feel exactly
how that
what
make
you're
y'all
saying.
feel.
I feel like, this is my opinion on it, and my brother, Garrett alluded to it earlier as far as what are we willing to do, Black people.
The risk,
Yeah, but before that, you talked about what are we willing to do to change something. This was white people's idea of changing something. You know what I'm saying? They were willing to storm the stuff. But Black people, we feel like we only go so far. And a lot of times in my thinking, when you look at it in scope, it's like Black people are only trying to ameliorate our situation in this country. Meaning they only want to make it better, like putting a Band-Aid on it. I know we're being abused. I know what's in, but if we could just tweak these things, then we'll be happy.
Find that middle ground.
Yeah. Not knowing that we're never gonna find peace here. It's not gonna happen.
True.
As long as a group have power over your way of life, you can never find peace.
These motherfuckers are not your friend.
No, unless we control how we want to live, then we might find some kind of relative peace when you're trying to that, and that goes to the core of a lot of the thinking of the Black community. We look at it wrong. A lot of Black America look wrong. Not just Black America, but Black people worldwide. If we don't take control of what we want to do as ourselves, as a people, as a global people, then we're always going to find frustration in living. Now, let me just give an example.
Yeah, right. Because you kind of hit it right there, right?
Because sometimes we look at, you know what I'm saying? We got to look at examples of the world, Mm-hmm. If those of you are listening and you are aware of what's happening in the world, there's a whole lot of talk and conversations, articles about what the Chinese are doing. White people fear what the Chinese are doing. Why? Because the Chinese are establishing themselves global as a people. They have programs in place, like if the Belt and Road, and far as what they're trying to do technologically, being the technological powerhouse of the world, there's articles of it. Read about it. But they have an idea of establishing themselves as far as their sovereignty, of making sure they get to live and control their own way of life. I don't think Black people, we maybe think about it. I'll give us that credit. Maybe think about it. But we don't actually put an actual program in place to actually make it happen. And I say, okay, at least they do that. White people, they put a program. They already have the power. So they put programs in place to maintain that power. Black people, though, we're not even at the point of putting programs in place to start getting what we want. Read the ISIS papers by Dr. Frances Cress Wesley. She talks about how we go to a point of raising the problem, raising the problem, talking about the problem, but then go back to square one. Never a steady progression to problem solution.
Essentially, he's talking about like action.
Exactly.
Exactly. Let's put like a method or something.
Capitol Hill thing. That was white people was trying to solve their problem. How they feel about their own white people.
Yeah. Well,
at least they put action in place.
No. I'm gonna. Yes, I know you got something to say, Terry. But the thing is, he's. I guess we're trying to really understand. He's just saying like.
But you talking about like eventually like a thing put in place. Like right now, we talking about the stuff that just happened on Capitol Hill and how if that were
black people,
exactly.
Right.
And what you're saying is like the stuff that we do need to put in place eventually, right? But to begin with, a lot of people have to even look at this and go, oh, okay, why did I meet this type of opposition? Because you can't just go, first of all, we are, 13% of the population. Exactly. And so I think a lot of what went into what happened with the stuff that happened in Capitol Hill was a lot of had to do with the numbers, but it had to do with a lot of what you're saying is where we have to be eventually. We are not there right now.
Well, let me say this.
We're not there right now. And this thing that happened was proof of that because we have a contrast of something that literally happened 6 months ago. When we tried to do what you were saying, right? Mm-hmm. And take control and do all of this. We tried to do that. And we didn't even do what these people did.
Yeah.
Not even close.
No, not even close.
Protested. Hell, we were protesting.
Not even close.
And this man wanted to go on the other side of the street and hold up a Bible and say, hey, God is good, Jesus, and all that stuff. And the people that were protesting, peaceful protest, no rioting, no nothing, peaceful protest, and they got gassed and peppered and like what you call it, like beanbag, and pushed across the street so this guy can go on the other side of the street and say, I got this Bible right here and this is what I'm doing. So that's what I'm saying. It's like eventually, yes, we do want to get to that point where where we can be able to do all of this, but right now we're here with the differences, right? And maybe this, what happened, can give us some kind of power, but we're not there yet, right, sis? That's what I'm saying.
I get that. Just to say a small thing. I know something. Yeah, eventual, but I think certain things can be immediate. No, we can see a plan in play. Look, how is it that a small group of white people go to South Africa and control the whole region when they're a minority in that whole region full of black people? They have an idea about what they want to do already. I'm saying we can at least, in today and age, and it doesn't take too much to do, we can see a small group of us, however small it is, to want to change our situation, have at least show a plan in place where this is what we're going to do. It could take a few small dedicated black people that show that we're not doing this anymore. This is what we're going to do. This is a small minority that raid Capitol Hill. This is a small minority of white people who decided this is exactly what we're going to do and we don't care what the hell. And
made a big
lot of people. There's things we can do immediately. We don't have to wait eventually. We can do some stuff immediately right now.
And that's what, and see, when we're trying to do certain stuff like that, we cannot do what they're doing because they're always crushing us and keeping us at the bottom.
They're brutal.
Yes, we do also have, and that's what I'm trying to explain to him. Yes, but this is what I'm saying. Yes, we do also have the resources. We have a certain amount of black people too that have the money, and when we do push forward and also to try to do that, they crush us. They make it seem like, oh no, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. They racist and interests and all that. Yeah. When we do try to push forth and want to make better for our kids, our future, and everything, and you see what happened. Come on, you're black.
But they were talking about fear.
Exactly. So and that's what I'm saying. But do what we want to do. And that's the point here today. If that was us doing that to the Capitol, you already know what happened. We never even made it that far. Yeah. Like, come on now, let's be for real. Even when we do a peaceful protesting, what will happen to us?
We'll go to the point. We're part of fear. Why don't we take the necessary steps to change our situation totally?
So I'm saying, so look at the bigger picture here, though. So, and that's what I'm trying to you see here. It's just not even just that. Okay, so be realistic here. Certain times when we just do a little amount of smaller protesting, it could just be 10 of us and want to protest. All 10 of us getting arrested.
But I'm thinking of far past protesting. We've been protesting, getting nothing.
Okay, so
keep doing the same thing over and over and getting no results.
So what are you saying?
That's what I'm saying. So what are you saying here?
That's what we're trying to understand. Well, let me ask. Are you saying, right? Because Black Lives Matter protests, right? And they got the opposition, they got taken down. Are you saying that Black Lives, or the protests of the working class or the minority need to mirror the same as what happened this past week on Capitol Hill?
That's not what I'm saying. Okay. What I'm saying, that's an example of what step we need to take. We don't have to do it that way, but Black people, we're still struggling as far as getting rid of these white names that we wear, practicing their religion, speaking their language. We don't want to separate ourselves from these people and take the drastic steps in order. Yeah, it might be deep for some people. I understand that. But what does it say? Okay, I think these things, getting away and separating ourselves from white society, I think these are steps that are legal. We can change our names if we want to. That's a legal right. But we won't do it. I'm not to go into a whole history lesson, but when white America tried to do the same thing to American Indian, Native Americans to try to change, they beat their names into them too. But the minute they got the chance to change their name back to what it was, they did that. Not Black people. There's things that we can do with a protest that have to be marching, and we completely separate ourselves and change our situation. But we won't take those steps. We want to be able to ameliorate, and that's what I say, ameliorate the problems. Like, just treat me better, please.
Yeah.
These people obviously are not trying to change their ways.
You know what? I don't really want to necessarily have to change gears to our conversation, but the thing is this. We talked about the protests, and we talked about what's going on, but we see that already. I kind of want to bring it to a point where, as far as our community and our brothers and sisters, we need to realize of what's kind of like I always make this comment. Don't be oblivious to the obvious. Can we see what's obviously going on here? Aside from what we can talk about, the systematic racism and everything, well, this conversation is a part of that. But what I'm trying to say is, let's just talk about the image, right? Let's just talk about what is portrayed before we can really get into, the idea of, the privilege that white people have, the things that they're able to do, we can see that already. But let's focus on like the attention it gets, the stories that's written about it. They do not victimize these people. So, I want to bring this to a basic point, because we're kind of talking loud. I know a lot of y'all out there, I don't want to lose y'all out here in the conversation because it gets like that and it's deep. But I want to kind of connect with you guys. Just kind of look at the visuals. Look how they talk about these people. Remember, no arrest was made till after, but that's not the point. Look at everyone else. I talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. We didn't beat that horse dead. We talk about not even just that, criminals. Look how the simple fact that white people kind of vilify their serial killers. Serial killers will never, that Charles Manson never died. Ted Bundy will never die. These Hitler will never die. These people will always and forever be remembered. Now, you could always say it's for nefarious reasons, but the idea is their image don't really clout much of what they did. They always want to mitigate their stories. They don't mitigate our stories. Remember, every black man is every black man is a victim. Every black man is seen and portrayed in that way. Even when the story comes out later, right? Even when it comes out later, don't you guys notice when the story comes out later, that black man he still get the stigma of being some type of criminal? Yeah. Even afterwards, when you know what I mean? Afterwards, and then you see him, and the family, I just want to kind of, again, the conversation grows. I just want to,
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
But the thing is, that's all a part of white supremacy.
Yes.
Right?
Because we're talking about black enfranchisement,
all of that is part of white supremacy.
Disenfranchisement.
Exactly. We talked about that before, and then we talked about how the opposite of that is where you have, black disenfranchisement. In order for you to have white supremacy, first of all, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a part of white supremacy is capitalism. And in order for capitalism to thrive, you need a top and you need a bottom, right?
Absolutely.
You need somebody to be gaining off of the disadvantagement of another group.
Capitalism needs a poor class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you add racism to that, that's where you get all of this. And I think all of that is the culmination of, first of all, right? We're talking about America, which had slavery, right? Mm-hmm. And not only that, but for the past 40, 50 years, not only do we have the residuals of that, but we also have the degradation of the middle class and more poor treatment of the poorer class, right? That's where you have capitalism. You have these 1% that's getting richer and richer, and you have this class. So all of that has been compounded for the past 40 years.
Yeah.
That's where you get this past week. Oh, and add on top of that a pandemic, right?
Right.
That compound all of those discrepancies, right? The racial discrepancies, the financial discrepancies, and then you add a pandemic to that, and that's where we are. So that's what you saw this past week. And that's where you get the storming of Capitol Hill. And then on top of that, yes, you do have the showing of racism and privilege, right? So that's all we're saying. And then you see that, and the past year showed you everything. It just shows you what America is.
Yeah, it's just white people being white.
It's white people being white. It's America being America. That's basically
ain't nothing changed, man. Come on, man.
But I want to talk about but not to talk about, but it's the idea is our viewership of what it is what I kind of want our viewers. Of how we look at this is what I want our viewers to understand. The idea is we have to see and get this reality of what's going on. You know, we can't dismiss the idea of, you know, when we get kind of swept up in all these kind of like, you know, terms and all these kind of like, you know, definitions and all this kind of stuff, it does get overwhelming. So let's just look at what's going on, see what's going on. You know, we can stress the point of that. This is kind of like something you can, you know, it's with your eyes. You don't have to necessarily take the native words like you're reading something or something, somebody's trying to tell you something. This is a reality. So it's like the visuals that I really want to kind of make my viewers out there, you know, kind of stress to them so they get that kind of understanding, because the media is not ever going to portray their stories in a negative light. I said that one more time, so y'all got to understand that.
Their own.
You know what I'm saying? I repeated myself for a reason, so you guys understand that point. Y'all got to get that point. Lightly. Y'all have to understand that point. This is something that we talked about, so you got to get that.
Include who is in charge of the media.
Exactly.
Who's in charge of the media?
I just said their own.
Exactly. Is white supremacy.
That's where, you know, every institution in America has one thing in common. Every institution, whatever you can name, they're all white dominated and controlled. Every institution.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. So when you think about, you know, and we could just leave it here, the difference between, you know, the privilege of what you just saw this past week and all the adversities that Black Lives Matter and all the protests, you know, for actual people's rights that went on this summer, you could see the differences with that.
It's
That's
clear.
basically, it's clear. Yeah. That's what America is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right. Don't be oblivious to the obvious, man. Stay awake, y'all. Y'all should be woke already.
If you're surprised, I'm surprised you're surprised.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're surprised.
It's nothing new here. You know, you reach out to us, you know, let us know.
Subscribe,
you know,
comment.
What you think about that.
YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Google Cast,
Instagram,
YouTube,
all that. We
Anchor.
there. Just type it in Google.
Oh yeah, we here all day.
Reach out to us.
Hit us up.
Y'all know
it's a family unit right here.
Love y'all. Black Power.